in the world of technology with Mathew Dickerson on Tech Talk. Point 9.
Morning, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, Richard. Actually, listening to the boss there was great. The best concert I've ever been to was a Bruce Springsteen concert. He was fantastic in concert.
Oh, mate, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, man. We're going to do concerts on Saturday afternoon, actually. Chris Brown's coming back with his stack of LPs and CDs, and we're going to be doing that starting very soon. I think probably Saturday week. Okay. All good. Dave from High Tech Frames and Trusses has sent you a message, mate, and he said he's given you a visual guide of the 1,000-inch widescreen TV that we were talking about the other day on Tech Talk, and he said, in actual terms, of course, coming from High Tech Frames and Trusses, he's measuring things all day.
Yep.
1,000 widescreen format TV would be 21.75 metres by 13.7 metres, and he said basically that's a bit smaller than an indoor swimming pool.
So we did say that it's not many people with their lounge room that are going to have the ability to whack it up on one of the walls in their lounge room. It was probably more a commercial application.
Yeah, and he's pretty cheesed off with Microsoft 365 because they don't have an Access database program. It's extra. We were talking about that the other day, Windows 11 DVD question. But anyway...
Well, I've done the research on that one for you too, Richard. I was going to mention that one. So I did go and investigate further the question that you had there from Dave, I believe, around Windows 10, not being able to play, say, Blu-ray DVDs, that sort of thing, and then the ability for Windows 11. The situation with Windows 11, now I've done some more research on it, is that it's exactly the same. So if you want to be able to play, say, a Blu-ray or a movie on a Blu-ray DVD, for example, then you're going to have to use some sort of third-party application to do that. It doesn't do it natively.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Got a couple of goodness for you this week, and a beauty. I like this drone deliveries for pizza, coffee, parcels, and now the military in England are delivering blood.
Blood
Tell
by
us more.
drones. Yeah, it's quite fascinating. So the British commandos are doing some simulated training at the moment. Don't worry, they're not going out and shooting someone, having them bleed out and then sending the drones in. It's all simulated. But one of the things that they found that's an integral part of the battlefield is being able to fix up people that have been injured. Now, they can get medics there and they can actually patch people up, but they might have lost a bit of blood in the meantime. Obviously, the soldiers don't carry blood around in their backpacks with them. It would obviously be useless after a fairly short period of time and obviously carrying all that extra weight. But you want to be able to get blood out of the battlefield if you can. Sending the drones in is the way that they've been working on with these particular simulated exercises they've been doing. And obviously then you can have your headquarters, you can have your blood stored in a normal environment, and the drones can get the blood there in a very short period of time. They can get through some pretty hostile environments because it's pretty hard to shoot a drone down out of the air while it's flying along. So you can get it there, and if they do shoot it down, they're fairly inexpensive in military terms. I mean, obviously they're expensive from my perspective and your perspective, but from military perspective, they're fairly inexpensive. But these aren't just your normal ordinary drones that you slip up to a white goods retailer and buy. These are some pretty serious drones. They've got a range of 43 miles. Sorry about the imperial measurement there. They can fly for 36 minutes. They can carry 140 pounds. Now, that's obviously a lot of blood that you could carry for 140 pounds. But the other thing they've been experimenting with is getting ammunition back out in the battlefield. And again, a perfect example of what someone needs in the battlefield. When you're a soldier out in the battlefield and you run out of ammunition, well, then really you're just a target. You're not actually that useful. So getting ammunition to some of the soldiers out there in the battlefield is the other thing they're trying to work on. They haven't worked on getting coffees or pizzas delivered to people in the battlefield. They've just worked on ammunition and blood. But in the real world, not the military world, often you'll see things developed for the military that we then apply in the real world.
Yeah.
So imagine having a major car accident, a major pile-up, or a tsunami, or some other major incident where you needed to get blood to that particular area because people were injured and they couldn't get out from that area, then drones could be used in that same way. So I can see the application in our world as well, civilian world.
I can see it out to sea as well. I can think of a couple of situations there where had blood been delivered, or they could have got blood to those people out at sea, they would have survived, etc. Okay, I don't know whether I want to do this with you, but anyway, I have not dreamed of seeing the future. I really don't want to know what's going ahead of me, but anyway, apparently Australia can give you a long sleep and you can wake up. Tell us more.
Well, the second part of that, I'm not sure if you can do, Richard. They can give you a long sleep. There's a new cryonics facility that will be the first one in Australia to be up and running, and they can guarantee that they can put you to sleep, or after you die, obviously, they can freeze you. There are no guarantees, Richard, about whether or not you'll be woken back up again. The good part is it's a bargain basement price at the moment. There's a normal fee of $150,000 to be in this facility. But as a founding member, we can get in at the ground level, Richard, for only $50,000. Now, what that guarantees is that we'll be able to put someone into the facility. We don't know who. Could be us, could be one of our friends, our relatives, whatever. But there are no guarantees. They're quite open about that. The director of this facility said, we can't guarantee that we can wake you up. In fact, he says, I'm not sure that we'll ever be able to get to that stage where we'll have the technology to do so. But we'll take your money anyway. We'll put you in the facility. At this stage, they've only got about 40 or 50 people that have actually paid their founder's fee. This facility will have up to about 600 people in this facility at some point in time. That's the plan for it. And this
I've got to ask you where, mate, because at this stage they're doing it all out of a little shed in Holbrook, which is halfway between Sydney and Melbourne.
And that
sounds like a garage job.
Yeah, it does sound like that, but that's exactly where it'll be, halfway between Sydney and Melbourne. They'll build that facility that there's there now will be built to be a larger facility as they get more money coming in from these people. Mm-hmm. There's no annual fee once you're in there. The plan is that once you're in there, the initial fee that you paid is enough to cover you for, I don't know, some period of time. There's some long-term plan they have that essentially allows you to stay in there. But the waking you up is a tricky part. At this stage, all we've been able to do, all that science has been able to do, is freeze a Russian roundworm and then bring it back from its frozen state to be a thawed state and still operating. Now, I think, I'm not an expert on this, Richard, but I think there's probably a little bit more complexity in the human body than there is in a roundworm. So we've got a little way to go.
I agree. There's more to, probably a roundworm's got a heart, but we've got livers, kidneys, all sorts of other things, lungs that we've got to keep on going. Anyway, it's all interesting, and there we are at Holbrook, of all places, in a shed. Yeah. And, of course, I asked the question, these people are doing this and freezing you. They're going to die too. What are they going to do? They're going to be frozen to wake up and say, oh, I remember you.
That's right. Well, it'll be quite interesting. And you see movies with it, obviously in science fiction it happens, where people come back to life and the whole world has changed around them. Forget about having a bit of a generation gap between you and some people that might be a bit younger than you. Imagine having this whole gap when they'll be talking about TV shows. They'll be talking about things that happened in history. You'll have no knowledge of those whatsoever. They'll be talking about who won a gold medal at the swimming at the Olympics, and you won't even know that person's name. So there'll be all these things that happen that it would be quite strange to come back after that period of time.
Yeah, it would be. Now, mate, I want to concentrate a little bit on this with the EV news roundup that you've given us. We're going to talk about a number of cars and a number of things that are happening. It really seems to me that with EV vehicles, we're back to the days when there were lots of people making cars, all after their surname, DeSoto, Packard, Ford, Holden come to mind. And it seems to be happening again.
Well, it seems to be lots of things happening in the EV market, and I'll just run through a few very quickly. Rivian at the moment just raised another $2.5 billion in another round of funding. So far Rivian has raised $10 billion. That's how much has been invested in Rivian. And you'd think that's okay because, gee, they must have produced a lot of cars so far. You cannot buy a Rivian yet. $10 billion has been invested. They've been going for a decade. You cannot buy a Rivian yet. In September, hopefully, maybe October, will be the first one that comes out. But they've got investments from Amazon, from Ford. They've got some pretty big companies that are investing in them. There's a lot of confidence there, but they need to produce a vehicle. Now, the pickup truck, or ute as we would call them, the first one that we produced, I think will be an absolute hit, but they still need to produce it. They still need to get it out the door. But again, it's that confidence that people have in the EV market. So that's one. Lucid is another one. Lucid's just doing another round of fundraising at the moment, and they're in the same situation. Lucid has not sold a single car yet. You cannot buy a Lucid car, but they're doing another fundraising for $4.5 billion of fresh capital being injected, again, based on nothing more than confidence, nothing more than we think this market's happening. One company that is out there producing cars is Mercedes-Benz, and you're very familiar with Mercedes-Benz cars. You're a big fan of Mercedes-Benz. They're saying at the moment that from the year 2025, they will no longer do any further development on any more petrol or diesel powered cars. Only 4 years away, and that's the end of development. Now, they'll still sell petrol and diesel powered cars after 2025, but they'll only sell existing models. No new models will come out, no further development. That's it. So they'll have electric vehicles. They've got a new one coming out in a couple of months' time. We might even see some of them in Australia, but they're obviously going down that path where they see that this is the future. And in particular, they said, the luxury car market is the first place that's moving to EVs, and obviously that's Mercedes-Benz bread and butter is the luxury car market. And lastly, we can't mention EVs without mentioning Tesla. Tesla has had another fantastic quarter. They used to be mocked with other car companies for how few cars they could actually produce. Well, in the last quarter, they produced 206,000 cars. So they're on track to get up maybe around 800, 900,000 cars this year. Still not the same sort of level or volume that a General Motors or a Ford might do. But to be producing over 800,000 cars a year when you've only got a few models and they're all electric is a pretty big vote of confidence for the whole EV market.
Yeah, I agree. And I was just following up on Merck. They've already looked at reducing the number of cars in their C-Class range and their E-Class range to fit in with their SUVs and their electric cars. It's very interesting. And, yeah, they've been telling people for quite a while within the Mercedes family, if you want to call it that, after 2025, you've got to go electric.
Yeah, that's right. And even their AMG, their performance vehicles, they've always produced those in beautiful, throaty V8s. Well, the latest AMGs they're about to produce will be much smaller, maybe four-cylinder, maybe turbo, and they'll be hybrids. So they're even changing that sort of raw performance vehicle that people expect out of them to take advantage of where the whole market is moving.
Yeah, look at the stats, though, for that new AMG they're going to bring out in 2012. It's a smaller one. They've got that small body now on the AMG. It's going to be a rocket because it's electric motor, and they're claiming it'll go under 2 seconds from 0 to 100.
Yeah, and there's a few
under 2 seconds.
There's a few of those performance companies that are coming out with that sort of time frame, which is quite doable with electric vehicles without having to throw a huge V12 7-litre engine into it. You've got all that instant torque available.
Yeah, well, you can throw a 6 in there, and still get up to 0 to 100 about 4.3.
Yeah, but that's not 2 seconds, is it? That's twice as long.
But I don't mind 4.3. No, I'm not going to go any further with that one. Could get yourself into trouble. All right, good to talk to you, Matt, and we'll catch you next week at the normal time. We had an interruption this morning with your performance and the two other mayors, and I thank you for that this morning, clarifying the situation regarding the Dubbo Regional Council. And thanks for Tech Talk this morning. We'll catch up next week at the normal time around about 9:20. See you then.
My pleasure. Thanks, Richard.